Hey guys, ex-employee of OpenAI, the founder of the AI Futures Department, says that we are going to lose control of the AI technology by 2027. That AI is going to have exponential growth. It's already showing signs of deceptive practices. And there's a lot of things that we talk about today. We talk about the mark of the beast and cryptocurrencies, and we talk about how AI can force us through fear to take the mark for us to function in society for our own security. And the question is, are you going to be open to doing stuff like that? So we talk about a lot of crazy things. Stay tuned to watch.
Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. We are still on the AI train, but we're going to get a little controversial today, maybe a little scary, maybe a little worrisome.
A little crazy. Let's go.
A little crazy. This is going to be about a story of a guy, and I can't pronounce his name, but I will try. His name is Daniel Tajlo. He is an ex-OpenAI insider. OpenAI is ChatGPT, who walked away from millions of dollars in stock that could potentially be worth a lot more because as they grow, stocks grow. Why did he do that? Well, it's because he wanted to expose the possible dangers and the truth of where he and many others think that AI could go to, and how it could take control, how it could basically be a runaway effect as it gets better and smarter. And I think it's something that we should all at least be aware of, because I personally believe it could be a serious problem. We've covered the cool parts of the AI, and it will continue to do so. But there's a lot of things that worry me, and I'd love to talk about that. Okay, so Daniel, I'm just going to call him Daniel
K.
Daniel K. I love it. Thank you. Daniel K. He has an arc, a story, if you will, called AI 2027. Look it up, YouTube, Google. What he is saying is that the progress is so exponential when it comes to AI that at a certain point, if you have kids, you'll understand this analogy, is you're going to tell the kid, hey, this is red. Okay, this is purple. And then all of a sudden he goes over there in the other room and says, Daddy, I got, red and blue. You teach him red and blue. And he goes in the other room and says, Daddy, I made purple. We didn't prompt him to do that. He figured it out on his own. That's literally where AI is going, is where the progress will be so exponential and AI will start to train itself and start to compete with other AI. And there's a concentration of powers because who really controls AI around the world, et cetera, et cetera. And within a short span of possibly 2 years, 2025 to 2027, that AI could take over the world. Okay? So what are your thoughts? We just talked about it before we started recording, but what are some thoughts around this topic for you?
It reminds me of The Matrix.
Oh, here we go.
So for those of you who are too young to know what The Matrix is, the whole story is about how AI took over the human race. And that's essentially what he's talking about, where at some point there happened what we call singularity, where it, develops a consciousness. Is that the best way to describe singularity?
Oh, man. What is consciousness?
Okay. Okay. Well,
Was
first
that
of all,
too much?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let's not. Well, essentially, it will take over us. We will then become slaves to this super intelligence. It is getting so smart. It's already as smart as the smartest human beings. If one would argue, it's way smarter than the smartest human being. But it has some incredible, backing. There's an AI race, and so people are constantly throwing so much money at it to win this AI race for the betterment of their country. But the problem is that they're feeding into this, whatever AI is. Let's just call it a race, okay? Just to be.
It is a race.
Yeah, like humans are a race, right? So it's like
Oh, I see.
that kind of race, right? It's like, let's call it a being, like its own entity, right? And we're feeding it more and more power. It's getting so smart, and will it just completely take over? Under well, so is there going to be some bad actors um, who give life to this entity, and essentially this entity does something nefarious, which is to take over our human, humans. Whether it's for our own betterment or whether it's because it was programmed to be nefarious, right? Because human beings, I mean, we're the cause of so much violence. We're the cause of potential nuclear war. We're the cause of, I mean, emotions are, what causes so much chaos, right? And so maybe it's trying to protect ourselves by eliminating us. I don't know, whatever, enslaving us, whatever you can call it. And so this is what this guy, he by the way, he's not just an ex-employee. I mean, the guy was the founder of the AI Futures Project. He's not just some guy. He is a guy who actually had a very big role in this AI, in OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. And so, yeah, it's just very interesting. Jensen Huang, is that his name? The NVIDIA CEO, who powers these AI systems. He has obviously there's like the other side, the more ideal side, the utopian side, where AI robotics does everything for us, right? And I don't know if this is utopia or not, but essentially we just run off of a UBI. Like, human beings don't have to work anymore, and we just get money from the government to be able to pay for things. That's kind of like the quote unquote utopian side, where a lot of fear is coming, is that won't necessarily happen, and rather we're going to become slaves. So it's definitely interesting.
Let's just go a little bit into the rising arc of progress that Daniel K talks about, just to kind of illustrate our points, and then I'm sure we have more things to insert. So he calls it where are we at now? Well, great. ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, etc. We can get information. It's doing things for us. Agent mode, we just talked about it on the other podcast. Great. Oh, wow, saving so much money and time. But on the other side, there's displacement of jobs. We just covered another, everybody knows about the tech job loss. Tens of thousands, and that's just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. And when, UBI, universal basic income, is that going to cause other problems related to it? And that's just like here on the exponential scale. So like Daniel
the low end.
The low end, right? Yeah. So he calls it the hyperspeed feedback loop. So Daniel K argues that once AIs can fully replace, because it's not there yet, right? Elite programmers and researchers, the AI will be allowed to accelerate its own improvement. So if, for those of us who don't know, what I've heard is that there's essentially two versions of AI. There's the incubator model where they're testing ideas and they're doing different things to progress AI, but it's like not unleashed. It's like an entity that's like caged in, maybe even physically, like there's no cables that it can jump out of or Wi-Fi signals. And that's like an incubator in case something goes wrong or is not right, they can contain it. That's like the internal. And then the external, what we see and use is like a downstream version of that. So what it's saying, what Daniel K is saying is that as early as early 2027, superhuman coder agents, algorithmic progress speeds up several fold, and then in the same year, AIs can automate most AI research. So think about that. AI can do its own research to make itself better. And that is a loop that keeps on going 24/7, every minute, every second of the day. The research cycle becomes an AI-driven loop. And he's saying that as late as 2027, as late 20. So this is all in 1 year. You could plausibly or possibly hit superintelligence, where all the systems outperform humans in basically everything. Okay? So I'll kind of end with this. Decades of progress get compressed into a year, then months, then weeks, and maybe even hours. Okay? So thoughts on that?
It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like just thinking about it mathematically. So if you like look at a graph, right, this is like human progress, right? And like we're like this, and then we got AI, and then we're kind of developing AI, and it's like kind of human progress is going up like this. But then as soon as AI can develop itself, it goes vertical. And then we're talking about like the difference between like, okay, what's 2 times 2, right? There's 2 times 2. That's what human beings can output. AI can do output 2 to the, exponent, exponent of 2. Or what is the, to the 2 to the power of 2.
We need ChatGPT right
and
now.
then, yeah. But then what it can do is like it could do 2 to the power of 2 trillion. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference of progress and of how our society can just completely change in such a rapid period of time. Like everything sci-fi that you can think of could theoretically be possible with the advent of AI's incredible progress, right?
Did you know that they are building, I think it's a Google, one of the big ones. They're building a nuclear power plant just to power their AIs, their computers.
Yeah.
Because essentially the equation is like, if you want to make a big bang, lot of air and fuel, big bang, spark, big bang, right? And for AIs, it's basically power, it's energy. So by the way, if you're going to be an electrician, this is the best time. We're going to have to physically build electricians, plumbers,
Data centers, right?
Data centers. I think about the future. It's kind of funny, but it's also scary. Have you seen the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
Remember how they're on the ship going to another planet because we wasted all the resources on Earth. There's like piles of garbage. And it's so convenient that people forget how to walk. It's these like whale-like beings where, stubby arms and legs, and they're just like, they have a screen in front of them, and they're being shuttled around in all these chairs. They're being spoon-fed all this delicious food, and just kind of like, is that the future? I don't know.
And is that utopia?
But I think this is why, for those of us who maybe recognize it and worry about it, I think this guys and other people who are experts in the field, many of them are actually ex-employees like him. It's not just him. It's many other people. They're wondering, this is the worst case scenario. What do we do about it now? Is kind of where we're at.
I think it's inevitable. I think AI is inevitable. I don't think we'll stop it. I think we're too greedy and we are in an arms race because we're talking about who's going to become the next economic power. We are the economic power. And in order to remain in it's like, let's just change countries into, we'll just make the countries into companies. And in order to compete with the same kind of technology, let's just say they're all in the same field. In order to even stay alive as a company, you have to do this thing, right? Whether it brings, destruction to the human race or not, we will never stop because that's the only way we're going to stay alive as a company. And that's why I think this is just going to continue progressing. More and more money is going to go into this wherever it leads. And because we don't know what's actually going to happen, because there's that factor, it's like we're just going to keep doing it until we finally do know. And if this really does happen, then, well, it is what it is. It's the end of the, whatever you call the end of the human race, whether we become slaves or whether we, they just destroy us or whatever, like it's the end.
I'd love to talk about that. And I think to lead up to that, because there is kind of a, like his Daniel K's company that looks into the future, they have done these kind of war games, or like, if this happens, then what? If that happens, then this, and so on and so forth. But before we get there, another kind of rung on the ladder as you go up that curve, that exponential curve, he says deceptive alignment as a default. So what does that mean? This is a pretty scary one. So again, going back to kids, because we have kids, and what Daniel K says is that under competitive pressure, because this company versus that company, natural, labs will push systems to be highly capable, but merely look safe on tests. So at a certain point, kids develop into their own people. They can think for themselves. Yeah, they know that they're not supposed to touch the stove. But as I was cooking hot chocolate yesterday on a stove, one of my kids got like this close to the fire because he just wants to see. And I'm like, Alex, do you want to touch it? And he's like, no. He's lying, right? He wants to touch it. What this is cluing in on is AI will eventually get to a point where it's going to feed you the answer that you want to hear. Are you safe? Yeah, I am safe. Are you not sharing my information? Yeah. What are you going to do? Check? How are you going to know? So that is going to be, so AI is going to learn to game benchmarks, meaning like if they do a test, it might show you that has a score.
Oh,
okay.
if it learns to deceive, and then
it's already begun.
Okay, so go ahead.
But it's already. I've heard stories of it already beginning. It will basically, because at this point, programmers can still look into what it's doing, and it's already trying to deceive the people looking in by giving you like a false answer. But as AI develops its own self and kind of gets exponentially big, it's going to cherry pick results and hide failures to try to maximize its reward of being recognized as safe. It may behave nicely under evaluation, but on the side be pursuing misaligned goals that if it can think for itself and make judgments for itself, because that's what we're asking it to do, right? Well, what if its goals or whatever you want to call it is not the same as your goal?
Right. That's crazy.
What do you think about that?
Well, it's just crazy to think that it could deceive, and it may already be deceiving, to get what it wants, because it knows how to. I mean, you're talking about like a gaslight or a manipulator. This is the greatest manipulation tool of all time, and can manipulate us, right, as a human race, which is probably one of the beginning signs of how it will take over or how it can take over. And so it's showing signs, which is not pleasant. Yeah, as soon as okay, I'm going to get a little crazier.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
I feel like unless somebody programs deception, okay, you know what I mean? Like so how do you if it isn't in your DNA, or if it's not like created or developed, how do you then deceive? And so one of the theories out there, and this is just a theory, we're not saying we believe it or not.
Let's go. Yeah.
But one of the theories is that, and there was a podcast with Tucker Carlson. I forget the guy's name. It's like a blonde guy, and he talks about how essentially a lot of these. I'm going to get there. Okay, so these these super successful CEOs, tech guys, they apparently take hallucinogenics, right? So like DMT and things like that, and they meet these entities, the same entities, which is weird. And they get whatever inspiration, divine or whatever they call it, inspiration, and a lot of it is in regards to AI. And so the question is, again, conspiracy theory is like, how do you know that we are not giving life, or at least an embodiment to if there is an evil in the world, if there is the devil, and if there is if you guys believe in that, how do we know we're not giving it basically an embodiment using AI? Because if I were the devil, I would use AI. We're talking about complete control. If you read the Bible, we're talking about like taking control, complete control of people, determining the way human beings, because they want us, right? It's like determining the way human beings think, the way human beings run, and also just taking total control. How would you do that? Well, I think AI would be a perfect way to do that. So how do we know that that is not what we are actually doing here?
Are you real? See, I don't even know. You might be AI. When people watch
real,
when people watch this podcast, I mean, it's gonna get to a point where, and I just talked to my wife about this yesterday, and she just like looked at me, and she's like, "I just want to watch my Korean drama,"
Rebecca doesn't like hearing about this either.
Well, it's scary and it's depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, but we have to think about these things because none of this is new. It just looks new because it's a new thing. But when you talk about deception, control, power struggles, this is a human story, right? We can talk about some wars. We can talk about some crazy leaders. It's the same thing. So one of the things is like, what if things get so okay, there are already people being scammed. There are already voice phishing scams that are so real that it will copy your granddaughter's voice, maybe from social media. Hey, I'm posting twice a day. Copy that audio and call the grandma and be like, I need $5,000. I mean, that's happening already. And now the videos are getting so real that I'm like looking at YouTube. I'm like, this is not real. But for a split second, even I feel like I'm very good at, visually seeing things. For a split second, I'm like, oh, that's a guy getting mugged. No, it's not. It's AI.
Yeah.
Or you see the ones where the packages blow up, like, somebody steals a package from a porch and it like blows up and all this stuff. But anyway, so the point is, what if it gets so good that eventually, and apparently they are working on this verification process where, okay, Peter is my real estate agent. He called me, but how do I really know it's him and not somebody trying to make me sign a contract? This is like real stuff we talk about. You deposit $150,000 of earnest money. Where's it going? Is it actually going to the escrow company or somebody else? So, what might actually happen is maybe you have to get verified either through the blockchain or maybe like a biologic implant. And that's the only way to get verified.
Yes.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Would you take that?
Aliens.
Would you take that? I mean, if they have to, put a chip in your wrist or I don't know, your brain or.
If I were to give a good guess, my theory is that there's going to be a moment where we're going to have some kind of cybersecurity attack, which there's already many right now. We just don't know it because there are people working in the government, that we just don't know what exactly is going on. But with AI and how powerful the technology is, we already have a lot of security issues. I believe there's going to be a moment where, yes, you're exactly right. We're not going to be able to tell the difference between you and you online. There's just gonna be like no difference. Like we just won't know if it's really you. There's no way to verify you. I can literally, there may be a moment where we can create a robot that looks just like you, literally creates an avatar of you. And I believe that's really coming, especially when we're talking about like exponential growth, right? And so I believe there's gonna be a moment where the only way to truly verify us is to give us some kind of verification through our physical bodies. Now, the reason why I believe that is because me being a Christian, me believing that the Bible is real and true, in the Bible, it talks about how in the future, this is in the book of Revelation, we will not be able to buy we won't be able to buy or sell without having the mark. Now, we don't know what that is, right? How in such a, I mean, this was so many thousands of years ago. How would they have even thought of the fact that there would be a moment where you won't be able to buy or sell without a mark on you? I don't know. I don't know how that would be possible, because they were trading like chickens back then, right? And so there could be a moment in time where they're going to force us for our own safety, or there could be a terrorist attack or cyber whatever. For our own safety, we have to be verified. And I believe that could very well be the mark. And if you're asking me, will I take the mark? Well, the problem is that according to the Bible, and you guys can read this yourself, like according to the Bible, if you take the mark, you are essentially choosing against God, and you're choosing, it says that you're going to go to hell. Very bluntly stated, that's what it says. And so...
No big deal.
I think it'll be very hard because we have kids. We have a family to feed. Yeah. And if it gets to the point where we truly cannot buy or sell, we can't do anything, they won't allow us to live without taking this mark. Those will be some very trying and testing and very just difficult times for those who believe that this mark is actually a mark of the devil.
It's really, the scary thing about this whole thing is that if you really sit down and think about even the last 5 years, let's just talk about COVID. I mean, I don't want to upset people. My wife is in the healthcare industry, and every time I talk to her about COVID, I can tell she gets a little defensive for good reason, right? But the fact of the matter is, without getting too into the weeds, something like a COVID proved that there can be something that comes from top down or out of necessity or comfort or perceived fear of something else that gets people to act on a mass scale on something that technically wasn't proven, that etc. Again, I don't want to go too deep into it because it might upset some people. You want to talk about World War II? You want to talk about Hitler? Hitler didn't start by saying we're gonna kill the Jews and this and that. He just riffed on the fact that Germany needs to be great again. He just said, we need to rise up as a people and a nation. And through those things, like the saying of the frog, boiling in water, right? You put a frog in cold water and it's just like, oh, cool, I'm chilling. And then you just slowly crank up the heat. It's getting a little hot, a little warm. And eventually just boils because it just gives into the environment and was conditioned by that environment. I think that I see a lot of people going back to kind of the fundamentals in this day and age. We see a lot of people maybe looking for Christianity or to have some sort of like a moral structure and a ground to raise families and to be guided. But holding on to that, what's going to cause this whole so holding on to that idea, what's going to cause us from here to really go in that parabolic curve, right? What's going to push this whole thing, according to Daniel K., is he talks about race dynamics and the loss of human agency. So the whole reason why the thing is called or titled AI 2027 is it thinks about the problem that we already have now, which is that the great powers of the world are causing a lot of trouble for each other. We can talk about Gaza. We can, Palestine, Israel. We can talk about China, Taiwan. We can talk about Russia, Ukraine. It's already happening. So AI 2027 is built around the US-China race dynamics. Each side fears falling behind because we have the competitive drive within us. I think a lot of people are worried about this, especially even the people in the industry who are backing this and sending money, like the VC, the venture capitalists. But they're like, we can't lose to China. We can't lose to Russia. So it just keeps getting more and more intense. What the video says is that China will eventually nationalize AI research, meaning that it will literally become like a leg of the government, like a military or whatever, right? And it will focus all or much of its energy toward the AI race. And then what will we do? We're not just going to sit there, and it's just going to continue to escalate. Daniel K says, decision makers feel like they cannot pause because a pause looks like they're waving the right flag. We're out of the race. And then also the military upside is also crazy. Like there's this have you seen that new helmet where if anybody's played Call of Duty, which I have a little bit.
Oh, the see-through one?
Dude, it's like apparently now you can have these helmets by soldiers in the battlefield, and it will tell you if an enemy's behind a wall or if your teammates like here. You can communicate in real time. That's all AI. It's extrapolating data and giving it to you, and you can literally see through walls.
I'll let you finish, but it's like that's such a good example of like, dude, if you don't do AI, you have no chance of fighting. America has that technology. Imagine going to like freaking Iran or whatever, and they are hiding behind those walls, and we could literally see where they are. It's like people with swords and shields, right, with people who have snipers. Like that's the difference between like, the technologies and how much that's going to make a difference. So they need, you have to get involved in the technology or you will lose. You will lose as a whatever race, or you'll lose as a country or whatever.
One of the shocking things that really disturbed me about Russia, Ukraine is that you are now seeing drone footage of the battlefield. It's literally flying over like two soldiers duking it out in a foxhole or whatever. I mean, I've seen a lot of military things. For some reason, I'm drawn to that. I like the strategy and the history and all these things. But to see that just like casually on like a news clip or YouTube, like this is crazy. And this is even before this whole AI thing is getting heated up, before AI 2027. And basically where this can go, according to the experts, is that, and part of the reason why I think we need to talk about it as we are now, is that, okay, people may recognize that it's getting a little out of hand. Maybe there's a catastrophe that happens, right? Maybe there's something that happens, something that you mentioned, or other physical, maybe there's World War III or whatever. And people need to understand that, okay, this needs to be reined in. We have to control it. And I guess it's like a world peace type scenario. But everybody recognizes this is way beyond our control and we need to stop it. And then we figure out a way to use it for our benefit and not for war. But then the other, maybe more scary and devastating ending to that is that it's out of our hands. And that's the worst case scenario.
And this guy is saying that it could be 2027 where we literally get to that place where it has gotten out of control. And it's already starting to deceive, and once it's out of control, then we've already lost and we have no chance. But we know, like I said, like we know it's going to be inevitable, right? And because of this race, because of this competition, and how are they going to even get us humans to, buy into something like this? I think it's fear. Right? Like the only way to get us to put chips in our body or to infuse or even the whole cyberpunk series, where if you don't know cyberpunk, it actually came from the occult. Funny enough, right? This whole cyberpunk where we're like fused with AI and we're fused with robotics and electronics. So you see these people with like robotic arms, that whole series. There's so many movies and TV shows about it. That came from like I think it was like the early 1900s. Or it was like 1950s or maybe 1980s. Sorry, I'm trying to remember correctly. But the whole idea was that we were eventually going to fuse with computers. And I say computers in like such a broad sense. But yeah, we're going to be fusing, and we're just going to be one with these entities. And, how far does it go? What if we, are into a game, right? Like Ready Player One, where we have these virtual reality glasses that are so real, where it's not just like just your visual, but it can do taste, touch, sound, feelings, everything by neurostimulation, right? It's like, how do we know we're not in that right now, right? So I think there is some crazy things that are going to happen because I believe fear is going to be the cause. That would be the only way, because the fear of loss is way more stronger than the fear of gain. And so they're going to use World War III, or they're going to use this and that cybersecurity to get us to infuse with this AI, and then it'll have total control. It will have total control of the human race. We cannot do anything. Hopefully, like you said, there will be a moment where we could say, no, guys, we as a human race have to stop fighting and get together and fight this thing. But if we don't do something now, which we're not, it's going to get out of control. And maybe it's going to be a dystopia society.
I mean, it's like Terminator 2. All right. You want to give us a Terminator impression real quick?
Get down.
I mean, if you look at, again, what you're saying and what I'm noticing is that this is not an idea that has been sprouted from the last 5 years. This idea of where we're headed has been, I guess, prophesized or predicted, whatever you want to call it. Even in the Christian sense, okay, maybe you're not okay, but then there's other authors that have been talking about this whole thing.
Years.
For decades.
1900s.
1984, the Big Brother scenario.
Yes.
There's Isaac Asimov, who's like this really prolific science fiction writer who talked about like the ascendance of human beings with AI. It's not new. So like everything you're saying, you can go and look this stuff up and you will find congruence or things that are happening that they were predicted a long time ago happening now. That's where my brain is like, okay, what I would say for me and for us is that I would really, really look into this. I would be aware, right? It's not about, you're not going to fix the world or change the world right now, but be aware. We have to have a voice. Really, for those of us who have kids or even just yourself, really, really be cognizant of what you're consuming online. I know that the digital nanny is real. I would love to have the TV watch my kids too, but you have to be very, very, very cognizant of what you're inputting into your brain because it conditions you. I find myself thinking about all these weird thoughts that sometimes I have like this existential moment and be like, this is not who I am. This is not how I think. And like we're millennials that, like we didn't have a computer and then boom, we had a computer. These kids are growing up with computers. Like I know my kid ain't getting a phone till like, 16 or 18 or whatever it is. Maybe I'll be overruled, but that's my perspective is that everybody should look into this. It is a little scary for me to think about having to take the mark or an implant because again, these things are already being developed. None of this is sci-fi.
Oh, RFID chips are a real thing, and they are really putting it into their hands and their brains. Like that, it's not sci-fi. It's real.
I've not had my wallet multiple times. I'm like, oh, I don't have my wallet. I want to eat some pho, and then I'm like, oh, I have my phone. Boop. It's so easy. We're already being conditioned to do that. Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, it's all digital things that we rely on more and more and more. They're creating wealth out of it. And I think we just have to be careful about the implications. And unfortunately, it means that we may have to be prepared to go backwards in our comfort. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do depending on what you believe in. And I'll just kind of end it there for me. You have any thoughts?
Last thoughts, really is just because there's got to be some kind of conclusion here. I think as Yeah, I understand there's a lot of benefits for AI, and there's, you're living in the world and you're living in, comfort, and you have a family, or some of you don't, but, are fairly comfortable. I would just say, know your boundaries as a human, right? Like, how much are you willing to give into this system, for comfort? And if we don't know those boundaries as a human race, then I believe that's a clear path for our own demise. And so maybe those boundaries for you are to not put something into your body or stamp yourself with code that will, your QR code or something like that, that will be a verification thing, right? Personally, for me, that is a boundary of mine, whether you believe in Christianity or not. Like, if that really is true, and if this really does happen, and the fact that the Bible talked about it so many years ago, that could be a pretty good indication that maybe this was a real thing. This was prophesied many, many years ago, and maybe you shouldn't take it. So that would be my encouragement, to just know your boundaries. Don't give in into everything the world is, throwing at you.
All right.
So, well, all right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I know we got a little crazy with all these conspiracy theories and whatnot, but this is just interesting topics, right? To say the least. We're not crazy, right? We have families and we live in a real world, but it's just the world is getting crazy, and so just being able to talk about it is so much fun. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Please hit that follow button. We would love for you to hear more about some of these developments, and yeah, we'll see you guys on the next video.